Do you remember a turning point at all with Gareth Bale on his road to superstardom?
One of the big things I can remember, he'd already played quite a few games for us. But one season, I think Astro got injured at left back, so Gareth had to come in at left back. And then when Astro was fully fit, Harry Redknapp moved Modric more central with myself, pushed Gareth up to the left wing and brought Astro back in at left back. And then sort of from there, Gareth never looked back, never had any want to play as a left back again. He saw himself as a fully offensive player. And then we seen where we went from there. And I think that was obviously on the world stage, it was the hat-trick away at Inter Milan. But I think this change happened the season before when we finished fourth and qualified for the Champions League for the first time.
And Carlton, I mean, obviously, you're not a fullback. You're not defending really against someone like Gareth Bale. You're a striker. But as a team, when you saw his name on a team sheet, I'm sure your defenders must have felt a little quake in their boots because Gareth Bale was simply on fire at the time. The amount of points that he won, there was a phase where Spurs kept winning 1-0, 1-0, and a lot of those goals were scored by Gareth Bale on their road to Champions League qualification.
Yeah, every time we faced Spurs, we knew Gareth Bale was the main threat, and he could do it from centre of the pitch. He can do it from the left. He can do it from the right. It didn't matter where he played. I remember the goal he scored West Ham when he rifled it. He got fouled in the middle of the pitch and then up again, and then got the ball and then rifled a stalker into the top corner, and it really would just give it what the sort of quality this boy had, and it's just nice to see his going. He's come back to Tottenham and Spurs, and he's just making sure that he wants to be in, and he said all the right things as well, which is really good to hear.
Does he look like he has his smile back? I don't know if you follow Spurs on social media or Gareth Bale, Tom, but they've been putting videos of him playing basketball, playing little pranks on the new signings as well, not letting them into the training ground, for example. Does he look like he's got that swagger back, that zest to play football?
Yeah, I think he's in a place where he feels comfortable. He knows the surroundings. He knows he's adored by everybody at the club, the fans, the chairman. Obviously, the manager's been desperate to sign him for a few years as well. You just felt the last, 12 to 18 months at Real Madrid, it was getting a little bit toxic, to be fair, with the fans, with a lot of the reports coming out. Every time he was coming on the pitch, he was getting booed. And he's one of their greatest ever players. He's won 4 Champions Leagues and he's getting treated like that. Equally, with the language barrier over there, which whether or not he does or has learnt to speak Spanish in his time over there is yet to be seen. But yeah, I think he's in a happy place. As I say, he's loved by everyone and he's in familiar surroundings.
This may sound like a very strange question, but just follow me here. What did he like to do in his free time away from the pitch when he was at Spurs with you? What were his activities?
To be fair, I'm not sure.
Did he play golf? Well, is what I'm trying to ask. When you were with him,
I think he's played golf from being a young age. I've only recently started playing the last 3 or 4 years myself, but I know a lot of players take up golf as soon as they become professionals, just through the amount of spare time. A lot of your friends, if you finish training at 2 o'clock, a lot of your friends are still working till sort of 5, 6 o'clock. So you do have a lot of free time, a couple of days off a week as well, usually. So you have a lot of time on your hands. So I think all this golfing notion, where he prefers golf to playing for Real Madrid, is been fully blown out of the water. If he's not picked in a match day squad, then if one of his hobbies is playing golf, then he's going to go and sort of do one of his hobbies rather than sitting in the house sulking.
Then why do you think he was so heavily criticised for it? Because I constantly see footballers posting on Instagram that they like to play golf. And if that's honestly the worst thing you can throw at Gareth Bale as a professional footballer, there are many other former players and current players who I'm sure have far worse habits than playing golf in your free time.
Exactly. That's what I mean. I think there's probably a few times where he's been injured so he couldn't play football, but he hasn't been. He might be injured to the point where he's able to run and do a little bit of training, but he isn't fully able to play a match. And then he's been pictured on a golf course, so people try and almost put 2 and 2 together and come up with 5 and take the standpoint that, oh, he's injured, but he's still playing golf, which obviously isn't the case. There's different categories of injuries and different stages of your rehab. So I do think it has been, as you say, blown out of proportion. If he was out, I don't know, drinking or whatever, if he's not in the squad, then I'm sure that would be a lot worse than having a few hours of golf every so often.
Is that fair, do you feel, Carlton, what Tom's saying? Because I'm actually reading like excerpts, serialized versions of Nicholas Bentner's book, and I can tell you from what he's saying he did in his free time, it's a lot worse than what Gareth Bale likes to do.
Listen, if the boy's happy playing golf, let him play golf, you know? Me being an ex-pro, I've done a lot of worse things than playing golf in my spare time, so playing golf is not an issue for me, and that would be the best thing for me. If I was a manager and I was thinking, okay, this guy, one of my players likes to play golf in his spare time, and that's the only thing he likes to do, I'd support him, you know? So for me, it's no problem. You can play as much golf as you want. Just keep on being one of the best players in the world.
Final few comments. Are we going to see an evolution of Gareth Bale for you, Tom? You've seen him up close and personal for years, day in, day out at training. Do you think he can still have the same speed 7 years after he left the club? I mean, when you think back at some of the sprints he made, even for Real Madrid, where he ran off the pitch, I think it was in the Copa del Rey final, I'm not sure if you remember seeing that, against Barcelona. Yeah. He ran off the pitch and back onto the pitch and still scored.
I'm not sure if we'll see that too often, to be honest, but I think he's come out and said he's a more complete player these days than he was at Tottenham initially. So it wouldn't surprise me against certain opposition if he was to play as a more sort of a second striker just behind Harry Kane, almost doing what Harry was doing in the first half, dropping a little bit deeper, causing the defence problems, and then you'll still have your Bergwijns and Son making the runs, because we know Gareth's playmaking ability is up there as well as his goal-scoring record as well. But I think he's... When I was playing with him, it was sort of the time when Ryan Giggs was almost converting himself from a rapid winger to a more intelligent central midfield player. And we always joked with Gareth at the time that he would have that ability, because he's got the football brain and the technical nous to be able to pick up clever positions and probably play a more central role as well. So it wouldn't surprise me too much if majority of his time on the pitch was slightly more central than we have been accustomed to.
So what about his technical ability from what you've seen? Because I think back of some of the games he played at Real Madrid, obviously the technical ability to have an overhead kick in the Champions League final is one thing, but he was also able to provide quite a few assists during his time as well. And some of the passes he made were simply astounding.
Yeah, he's got the full repertoire technically. And a lot of left-footed players aren't very comfortable with their right, but Gareth's right foot is solid as well. As I say, if he wanted to play the slightly deeper role, as Harry Kane was doing first half, he would have no issues picking the ball up in a more defensive midfield position, but equally being able to spray the ball about the pitch and pick passes from deep, or, as we've seen, he only had a few instances, but him and Kane seem to strike up a decent partnership as well.
I don't know if you have any sort of continuing allegiance to Spurs, apart from the fact that you are a former player, but if any part of you supports Spurs, how happy does it make you feel when you can think of Kane, a fully fit Gareth Bale and Son Heung-min playing together?
Yeah, I've mentioned before, I think if they're fully fit and firing, it's probably in the top 3 or 4 front threes in world football, to be honest. Even Kane and Son alone have been unbelievable this season. And if, as you say, if you can get Gareth Bale fully fit, or even 80% of what he was a couple of years ago, then it's a frightening proposition for the rest of the Premier League.
Do you expect him to be a success, Carlton, over the course of the rest of the season and in all competitions?
Yeah, I've said it before, and I've said that front three alone is probably going to be, I think it's one of the best front threes in the Premier League. Probably, if not the best front three, once it starts to gel together. Obviously, Gareth Bale, you saw him today. You just saw a little highlight of what he can do when he got into the box, and the way he can shim past people with ease and get a shot is actually really good for any young player watching. Seeing how he just glides past players is unreal, and there's not a lot of players that can do what he does. And I really think that front three is going to be frightening for any sort of defence once Gareth Bale is fully fit. And as Tom said, the front two was already doing well, and Harry Kane loves being a provider now as well. So there's going to be loads coming from those front three. So it's just an exciting time to evolve into a free-flowing attacking team.